and today we're going to talk about pages 229 to the end of the book. Or if you do not know, if you do not have the same kind of pages as me, then I'm not very sure the chapters. It's Mahmoud, okay? It starts with Mahmoud, right? But there's a lot of chapters about Mahmoud. So you can find it called Macedonia to Serbia, 2015, after Mahmoud. And then it says 14 to 15 days from home after that. Okay, so just try to find that. But so we're gonna finish this amazing book today. Well, first of all, before we begin to ask the questions, I begin to ask the questions. I just want to ask you, how did you like the book? You finished the book, and maybe you read the author's note, but that's not and it's really cool to see how they've journeyed, Isabel's and Joseph's, right? So it's really cool. Hope that you looked at that. But anyway, yeah, how did you like the book? Me personally, it was a little sad, but it's just a great novel, in my opinion. Just a great book. It's like, if 1 to 10, I'll give it a 10. It's amazing. Okay, so let's start with Mahmoud. So Mahmoud felt like he was back in Syria, right? Mahmoud felt dirty again, unwanted, illegal. In your opinion, do you think that this is a good way to think of yourself? No, right? Not a very good way to think of yourself. Do you think that's what war does? Make you ashamed of yourself, or do you think that it just ruins you completely? I think that it just ruins you completely. So, which is why we try to avoid war, right? And so, I also want to talk about Mahmoud's mother. His mother kept on searching for Hannah, right? Do you think that this searching, if you ever Mahmoud, do you think that you would just, I would be crying because I felt so sorry, for my mother. But, do you think that, Mahmoud's mother, right? She's very, 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 very distraught, right? And do you think that Mahmoud felt, how bad do you think he felt? Because we do know that he feels terrible, right? How terrible? Okay. Anyway, so I also wanted to talk about Walid, okay? So we're just going through most of the characters, just reviewing on them until we go to the story, okay? Walid, so like how he's lost his personality. That's what war does to you, make you lose your personality, right? So one question I wanted to ask you about Walid. Walid's only seen bad things in his life, because his life compared to Mahmoud's has been short, so he's only seen bad things in his life. Do you think that if you only see negative things in your life, your personality will really disappear and you will only think of negative things? I think so. And you can think of an example, because I'm pretty sure you've had some good things in your life, but just compare it to something like a day, not your whole life. Maybe a day there was some bad things happening, and from then on for the rest of the day you only thought about negative things like that. Okay? Yeah. So those. Anyway, so they went to the train station, and it was packed with people. What did you feel when you read this? Did you feel despair because you were like, oh no, all these people are there, how are they gonna go on? Or did you think you were very excited because that meant that they were on the right track? Oh yes, and I also wanted to talk about Mahmoud's father, right? Mahmoud's father, makes a lot of jokes, right? He says things like this. Hey, at least we know we're on the right track, he said. He grinned at Mahmoud. The right track, get it? He gets it, but he doesn't really. But what I wanted to ask you about this was, Mahmoud's father is trying to help Mahmoud, right? Do you think that this is a very good thing to do, or do you think it just makes things more annoying? I think that's a good thing, but that's only my opinion. Okay. Anyway, there was a man who was doing a taxi, right? Well, the man was like 25 euros each, right? And so, do you think that they should spend 24,000 Syrian pounds, or 25 or 100 euros, or do you think that they should just, rest, and then after that they should in the hotel, and then after that go on a taxi or maybe walk? Anyway, I also wanted to ask you about, how they got to the Serbian border, right? And so at the Serbian border, and so they were just waiting there, right? And then they had another taxi, and they slept, right? So they were sleeping. At least Mahmoud was sleeping, right? In the taxi. So did you think that this was going to be a calm and peaceful ride? Or were you like, no, there's going to be something very, very bad happening? And then it was like this. The car wasn't moving. Did you just think, hey, they're there? Or did you think that something bad was going to happen? Turns out the driver had a gun aimed right at Mahmoud and his family. Okay, so I was really scared. I was like, oh my God. So, I was really terrified of that. But anyway, we are just going to go off from Mahmoud in 2015 in Macedonia and Serbia. In Serbia now. And we're going to go to Joseph off the American coast in 1939. So they were off the American coast, right? And then the St. Louis was passing Miami. Did you think that the Miami people were going to let off these Joseph and all of the rest? Or did you just have a feeling that was something that would never happen in 100 years? Well, for people who thought that will never happen in 100 years, you're correct. Okay. Anyway, Joseph, he's never had this kind of city before, right? And when he saw that city, what do you think that he got full of? What do you think that what do you think he got full of again? This can be a lot of things. This doesn't have a one right answer, but I was thinking about hope. Hope is a very important part of this story. And without hope, they could have, Joseph and Mahmoud and Isabel, they could have just all died, right? But they had hope, and they fought for what they thought they were, because they thought that they were going to survive. And so, yeah. So anyway, but you might also think of happiness or joy or maybe something else, or maybe excitement. So there's a lot of other answers. I'm just saying that I just thought of hope. Anyway, so Joseph's mother was dancing to herself, right? And so so I just wanted to ask you like this. So his mother said this: you can live life as a ghost waiting for death to come, or you can dance. She told him. Do you understand? Do you understand? At first, I was like, what? I'm not very sure if I do understand, right? It was a little hard to, answer, but we sort of do. But do you answer? Do you get the answer? I think it just means that maybe you can live a life as a ghost or someone, or just waiting for death to come, or you can do something happy. Not exactly dance, right? If you hate dancing, then don't dance. Do something that you actually like, because then you'll be wasting all your life just waiting to die. Not that, I'm pretty sure that you won't do that, but let's just say that you did, okay? I'm pretty sure you did. Okay. Anyway, why do you think that his mother is just like so happy? Well, sort of happy, right? She isn't that distraught over her husband anymore. Why do you think that she's suddenly so happy? If you had been Joseph's mother, do you think that you could have been this happy under the circumstances? Not me, really. Truthfully, no, not me. I would be just very, very terrified if I had to go back to Nazi Germany or not. Okay. Anyway, we learned that the United States has refused, and that they have to go back to Europe. If you had been Joseph, Joseph only cursed, right? People also cried and gasped the tears. If you had been one of the refugees, how would you have acted? How would you really have acted about this? I mean, like, I get that you would have done all the things, cries, gasps, but what would you have done especially to show that you are angry? I would personally, don't tell anybody, but I would actually find a plank of wood, and then when at night and then when Shindig goes around, I would smash the plank of wood on Shindik's head, and before even Shindig could know anything, I would push him overboard. Actually, no, that's a little too violent. What about this? What about I push Shindig into the swimming pool, and then I run away. And when Shindig looks around, that's when I'll throw a water balloon at him. Actually, no, Shindig will find him. It will find me and kill me. And also that isn't that isn't very realistic, okay? But still, you get that I would be very angry. But anyway, so these people, right? So Posner says that they're going to storm the bridge. So what did you think about this? Did you think that this was just complete insanity? Or did you think that they could actually pull this off? And I wanted to ask you, if you had been Joseph, would you have agreed or disagreed to help Posner? I'm not very sure. I didn't really think about that. Half of me would want to, half of me would not want to, okay? And yeah, I wanted to just say something. Isabel's story and Joseph's story both start with the same word, Miami, right? So I just wanted to say something very ironic. It's just that Isabel is running away from Cuba, and she's going to Miami, right? She's trying to get to Miami, and Joseph is trying to get to Cuba, and he also likes Miami. Big difference, right? Anyway, Isabel, so Isabel. Let's see. Joseph was in 1939, and Isabel is off the coast of Florida right now, 1994. Okay, so Isabel is crying for Yvonne, and because she had made it, right? I was really sad that Yvonne had just missed it. Really sad about that. And so Miami, Joseph and Isabel both have the same point of view. Miami is heaven, right? I just wanted to ask you, have you ever been to Miami? Just asking, curious. And if you have, or just from the pictures, or even if you haven't seen any pictures, just from big cities, okay, big cities in general, do you take them for granted sometimes? I sometimes do, but refugees don't take anything for granted, really. They really do have nothing, right? And I also wanted to ask you, so Isabel, she pushes the engine overboard. Engine overboard. Okay, that wasn't very funny. Sorry. But anyway, So the engine. So when Isabel threw the engine overboard, were you terrified and were you like, no, wait, how are we going to make it to shore? Or did you or were you like, hooray, the boat's lightened? Anyway, I mean, the thing is, I think that it was a good thing because did the engine work in the first place? No, it did not work in the first place. So, I mean, the engine wasn't going to help anyway. It's just dead weight. Throw it off, it gets lighter, and that probably means that they're gonna get floating, right? Anyway, remember Fidel Castro, the picture of Fidel Castro on the bottom? Well, what he was saying, the campaign was this: fight against the impossible and win. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you, do you like Fidel Castro? Not me. He would definitely not be a guy I would want to meet, or I would not want him to actually, rule my country. But anyway, but still, his motto, his commandment, fight against the impossible and win. Actually, that is very, very true. Just saying, okay? Anyway, and then there's and then suddenly there was a bleep bleep, right? There was a U.S. Coast Guard, and it was like this: halt! This is the United States Coast Guard. You are in violation of the U.S. waters. Remain where you are and prepare to be boarded. I was really terrified at that. I was like, what's gonna happen, right? So after that, something really important happens, right? We're gonna talk about that when we go back to Isabel. Anyway, we're going back to Mahmoud and the taxi driver who is pointing a gun at him. Okay. So which would be about, let's see. So this Isabel was 1994, so 21 years later. So Mahmoud, so the Serbian taxi driver demanded, you pay 300 euros. Okay, so this is very serious, right? What I wanted to ask you about this was this. His dad, right? Mahmoud's dad gives the taxi driver the money. Do you think that this is weakness or do you think that this is strength? Because think about it. What do you think would have been better? Mahmoud's father giving the money and they not getting hurt and just walking? Or do you think that maybe if Mahmoud's father had tried to fight, if Mahmoud's father had tried to fight, that would probably have been suicide, right? But anyway, yeah, so giving the money was sensible. And I just wanted to ask you, and so what I wanted to ask you was this. Mahmoud thinks this. He had a gun pointed right at his face. As long as he lived, Mahmoud would never forget that feeling of paralyzing terror, of powerlessness. So we know what pointing a gun at you feels like, right? Yeah, so we do know how pointing a gun at someone pointing a gun at you feels pretty terrible, right? But but still, we just guessed, but we know it's terrifying. But Mahmoud really brings it into the light. Like I said before, war is very, 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 very. Mahmoud is very, very, very terrified, right? We really get to know how a gun pointed at him. Well, I just wanted to ask you this. Did you ever think that having a gun pointed at you, did you ever think that refugees would go through getting pointed a gun at? Or did you never think that? I never did really until this amazing book. This amazing book. Most books, like kids' books, like little kids' books, They're like this. And then they lived happily, so it's like this. Example, let's see. Cinderella. So Cinderella, okay. So you know like how she lost her gold. She had an evil stepmother and everything. But anyway, and so I just wanted to say, Cinderella does not have a gun pointed at her. Most kids' stories do not, and even a story about refugees for kids. No, there will not be that part, right? But Alan Grass is a very good author, and he just he makes it so that it's actually real, and now we're just getting the happily ever after version, okay? And sometimes that is like bad. I mean, if let's say that you're watching a really bad movie about a war and there's so much killing, then sometimes a Disney movie, a Disney cartoon, those can actually, be very good. Disney's are very good in my opinion. But anyway, like I was saying, sometimes you need to really see the truth, not just the truth that people are just trying to put into your mind. Not that Disney cartoons are bad or fairy tales. I like them. I'm just saying, okay. Anyway, so they are getting to Hungary, and the Hungarians were closing their border. But anyway, Mahmoud was in the rush, right? And Mahmoud was excited too. It was like the refugees were doing something. They weren't just disappearing. They were actually doing something, right? But then there was tear gas, and Mahmoud was like this: I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. So really it was like this: I'm going to die, Mahmoud thought. I am going to die, I am going to die, I am going to die. The word, I'm going to die. Luckily, I'm pretty sure that you've never experienced this in your life. If you have, I feel very sorry for you. I hope that that's never happened in your life. Anyway, so how do you like the Hungarian soldiers' treatment? Do you like how they did this? Do you think that this is fair, or do you think that the Hungarians had every right to do it because refugees were trying to get into their border? This is actually a very, very valid question that even government officials and politics are still discussing this. So there's a lot of there's a lot of different points of view. So you really have to think about that one. Anyway, Joseph, he's 22 days from home, and he's somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, going back to Germany. Dun, dun, dun. Right? We don't know. We really do not know really do not know what's going to meet Joseph. What's going to happen. Anyway, so it was like this. I just wanted to ask you about the first paragraph of Joseph. This chapter on Joseph is this. I'm going to read it for you. Joseph watched his sisters splashing around happily in the swimming pool on A deck. Other kids chased each other around the promenade, watched movies, played shuffleboard. For as much as he wanted to grow up, Joseph wished now that he could join them. Be a little kid again, cheerfully oblivious to what was going on around him. Do you think that being a kid there are its advantages? There are. You don't have to make any money, right? Your parents or your guardian does do that for you. Only thing that you have to do is study hard, because because then you can be very successful, okay? So just wanted to talk about that. But anyway, they're going to storm the deck with Poser and some other men. When they started off, were you pretty confident, or even then, did you have a bad feeling about it? I still had a bad feeling about it. But anyway, so they did, they fought a little, but Captain Shorter was like, who is in charge here? What do you mean by this, right? Captain Shorter came, but Captain Shorter is a nice guy, right? And is this. Captain Shorter is this. you are going to do it yourselves. She kept, Shorter says this. Listen, I understand and sympathize with your desperation. Shorter does, but do you think that Shorter really has an idea of, like what these Germans have been through? Or, yeah, do you think so? Or do you just, not agree with that? I don't really think that, I don't think that Shorter really understood. I don't either. I wouldn't either. I mean, I do understand. I really do sympathize, but I wouldn't know how I felt if I was a Jew. Maybe I wouldn't know. Anyway, in the Holocaust, yeah, I would know. But anyway, so we are going to go back to Jew. But anyway, they stopped doing it, right? And so the last sentence was this. They were going back to Europe, and there was nothing he could do about it. So thing was like this. Joseph feels helpless. He feels just terrible, right? Feeling helpless is really just terrible, in my opinion, right? Anyway, we're going to go back to Isabel. So she's off the coast of Florida, 1994. Okay, so they're gonna go back to Cuba, right? So the U.S. Coast Guard have found them. If you had been Isabel, so you really just feel terrible about all this, right? And what I wanted to talk about that was Isabel feels despair. She feels hopeless. Hopeless is a very big part of the story, right? Not in a good way either. And so again, I just talked about hopelessness, so you sort of get what's happening, right? And also, mommy has getting the baby, right? So mommy's having a baby at the worst possible time, right? Pretty bad, right? So it's not the best, it's not right now like the best time to have a baby. Don't you agree? Actually, one of the worst times possible that they can have a baby, right? And so anyway, and then they figure out that the Coast Guard isn't even after them, right? Really big relief. So they're like this, paddle, row, row. And did you think that they were gonna survive? Actually, not really, truthfully, but they did. But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, Miss Isabel's mother was like, oh, and she kept on saying, oh, right? And then finally, they will keep on rowing, and then the U.S. Coast Guard ship turned on them, right? Found them. Oh, man. This is so the baddest time to have a baby, and also this is very terrible, right? And so we are going to talk about it later, but right now we're going to go back to Mahmoud and the tear gas and the explosions and the Hungarian soldiers. Hungary, 2015, 16 days from home. So so this soldier shouting through bullhorn, screams, explosions, and Mahmoud was like this: I am going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Okay, all in all, pretty bad situation. Horrible situation. So if you have been Mahmoud, would you have actually thought about, would you have thought, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die? Or would you be so terrified that you actually would die of a heart attack, or maybe you would faint? But anyway, suddenly rough hands grabbed Mahmoud, and Mahmoud, he zip ties, they handcuffed him, right? And Mahmoud is led to a prison. Okay, very bad situation now. This is so horrible. so horrible, right? I didn't know that the situation could get worse, and then it did. Anyway, now we're going to talk about Mahmoud's father. We meet Mahmoud's father, or at least we find him, right? That's really good. But Mom and Walid, they don't know, right? And do you think that it's fair that Mahmoud goes to prison? Do you think that Mahmoud deserves it or not? And this is a very fair argument, so. And also, how do you like the soldiers? Do you think that the soldiers are sort of heartless in a way? I'm pretty sure that Hungarian soldiers are nice, but the soldiers here. But anyway, a soldier whacked Mahmoud's father with a nightstick. Oh man, I wanted to punch that soldier. Not that I could. The soldier would probably kill me. But still. I know, if you're Mahmoud, would you have tried to fight, or would you have been smart and think, I'm gonna get my revenge later, but for right now, I don't want to kill myself and my father. And also, do you think that, I also wanted to ask you about the whole concept of about being visible at times and being invisible at times. So we really learned this from Mahmoud, right? So, yeah. So, since you've read the whole book, you should know this concept, right? So, do you agree with this concept, or do you disagree? How do you feel about this concept? I think that it's a really important concept for survival. But anyway, then they meet Mahmoud's mother and Walid. Right? So, do you think that this actually would happen to refugees in real life, or do you think that this was just luck? Because let me tell you, not all refugees have this. Some refugees never meet their family again. Right? Really sad. Anyway, the thing was this. These awful people are making everything bad, right? So bad. Do you think that, I wanted to ask you, do you think that, Mahmoud and his family, did you have a feeling that, things are gonna get worse, or do you think that they're gonna get better and better? I actually had a feeling maybe a little worse and then begin to go better, But we're gonna keep on reading. We're gonna keep on talking about that. Okay, so Belgium is in Antwerp. Okay, no, sorry, not Belgium. Sorry, Joseph is in Antwerp, Belgium. So the St. Louis was throwing a party, right? Because they were miraculously saved. England, France, Holland, and Belgium. They, they actually they were now going to be free. So Germany was right now 1939. So I'm a big World War II guy. At least I studied World War II a lot. And so Joseph goes to France, right? Well, I know that France was invaded in the 1940s. And then Joseph, he does get invaded later on. So, man. Anyway, we are going to talk about this. Do you think that the people in the St. Louis, do you think that they should throw a party when they aren't very even sure if they're going to survive, if another bad thing will happen or not? But anyway, Joseph and his mother and his sister, France was an amazing place, right? So, did you actually have hope that they were going to, they were going to be free and they were going to be happy? Or did you have a feeling that the story wasn't over yet and it might mean some more chaos? Well, the last sentence in the chapter is this. 8 months after that, Germany invaded France, and Joseph and his mother and his sister were on the run again. Not that, yeah. Anyway, we are now almost finished with all the kids' stories in here, right? Isabel's, Joseph's, and Mahmoud's. So let's go to Isabel, right? Years later, 55 years later, I think. Sorry, my memory might be very bad, but about 50 or so years later. Anyway, so everyone was saying paddle, and they were paddling as hard as they could, but the Coast Guard ship, it kept on coming toward them, right? And then, so Lito suddenly was talking about, he began to talk about when he was a young policeman, and that he had a ship full of Jews, but they had to send him back, right? We learned that, and Lito was so distraught about this, right? Because he had said manana, right? And we see that Lito was a Coast Guard person, right? And Lito was now crying, right? Did you feel sorry for Lito for once? But anyway, so the thing was this. Lito said this. I see it now, Chabela, all of it, the past, the present, the future. All my life I kept waiting for things to get better, for the bright promise of Manana. But a funny thing happened while I was waiting for the world to change, Chabela. It didn't, because I didn't change it. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. Take care of your mother and baby brother for me. Lito. And then Isabel was like, Lito, what are you? And then Isabel jumped into the ocean. If you're, Isabel's grandfather, right? Do you think that this was a sensible thing to do in the first place? And then, do you also think that, Lito, so he's sacrificing sort of for Isabel. Do you think that he should do this or not? Because that means that he is going to get a bad life, right? And anyway, Lito was going to go back to Guantanamo, back to Cuba, while Isabel was going to be free, right? Because, the Coast Guard ship had to rescue the person who was who was right now the person who was in danger, right? Or else, I think that was against the law, sort of. I absolutely felt terrible about this, Anyway, we are now going to talk about Mahmoud. But before we do that, I just wanted to say, if you have an Isabel, do you think that guilt would have been resting over you for the rest of your life, or would you just shake it off? There would be sort of a guilt in me, though. Anyway, Mahmoud. So so he goes to this cold, muddy field surrounded by a wire fence, right? Even Mahmoud's father was pretty tired and all that, right? Were you sorry about this? And do you think that Mahmoud's father had do you think that Mahmoud's father, without his laughing and spirit, right? Do you think it makes the group a little glummer? But anyway, also the UN were here, right? They were just looking around to see how it was like, right? But anyway, Mahmoud thinks about this. Okay, this is a really very big part. So it was this. Mahmoud was invisible as long as he did what he was supposed to do, and as long as he was invisible, he was safe, and she was comfortable. It was time for both of those things to change. Mahmoud took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Chunk, chunk. The sound echoed loudly in the big room, and suddenly all the kids stopped playing and all the adults looked up from their mattresses at him. It was green outside and sunny, and at first Mahmoud had to squint to see. Well, Mom, if you had been Mahmoud, would you have done this? Or honestly, be honest with yourself. Or would you have, been too terrified to do it? Honestly, I would have been a little terrified, okay? Just a little, but still, I would be terrified. Anyway, Mahmoud just gets out because the Hungarian can't really kill Mahmoud, right? Because the UN were there, right? So Mahmoud just goes out, and Walid says this. And Walid asks, "What are you doing?" And Mahmoud says, "We are walking to Austria." What did you think about this chapter? I thought this was a very important part of this chapter. This chapter itself. Do you think that this is a very important part of the book too? And I also wanted to ask you about Walid. Walid, his eyes were bright and alive, right? Walid, he's alive again. And were you happy about? I mean, you were of course happy about this. Why do you think that Walid suddenly got so alive? Because of Mahmoud escaping. Anyway, we're going to Joseph, who is right now, who is in terrible danger. Okay, and then after this, I'm going to say a few words that, actually no, but just say the Nazis are pretty horrible guys. That's all I can say. I can say much meaner things to the Nazis, but you know, let's stop talking about this. Let's go back. Anyway. So Joseph, okay. So Joseph is in the countryside, right? In a school, and Joseph was running for his life and his family. Were you pretty scared, or did you think that no worries, that Joseph would probably make it? But anyway, so they were running. Joseph shattered the window. Did you actually think that they were gonna get away? But anyway, they get found. So now, there was like the door. There was a door. There was not a door. Yeah, there was a house. But the thing was, someone was inside the house, but nobody was helping them, even when they pounded on the door. Right? Really unfair. Did you think, or did you actually sympathize? Because then the people who live there, they will probably be taken to concentration camps too. We can't really blame them, right? Anyway, the stormtroopers, Nazis came, the German soldiers, and it was this. So it was so they have really, really bad. They are in huge trouble, and Ruthie says, "We're going to Switzerland." Do you think that Ruthie should have said this? No. And I wanted to ask you about I wanted to ask you about this situation. If you had been Joseph, how would you have been in this situation? Would you have been terrified, or would you have actually been brave and not cried? Seriously, personally, I would have cried a little. And you have to be really honest with yourself, because one big skill is being honest. Anyway, so they get the money, and also there was these, Ruthie's coat had these earrings, right? And so the thing was, like this, but the thing was, they could buy only one of the kids freedom. Oh. And they only have, and so the Nazi soldier was like this. You choose which one. Oh my. So I just want to kill these Nazi soldier. I mean, I'm so annoyed at this. So, yeah. Anyway, okay. So I wanted to ask you about the diamonds, right? The jewelry, you know how this was what Papa had given her, right? The jewelry. Were you so distraught because this was jewelry that his mother had, and she was even taking that away, her marrying present? I'm so annoyed with the Nazis, right? Anyway, how can a mother choose between two kids? I mean, do you think that if you had been Joseph's mother, do you think that you could have chosen? No, not really, right? You really have to think about it. It's your children. And so I just wanted to ask you this question. It was the Nazis. The Nazis are these terrible people. And the Nazi soldiers, some Nazis are forced, and some Nazis are actually heroes because these Nazis did not like Nazis, but they were forced to be Nazis, and so they did really heroic things. They were traitors to the Nazis, which, since the Nazis are horrible people, traitors in the Nazi is actually really good, right? And they helped the good side. So some Nazis were good, but this Nazi soldier was just scum, this really bad guy, right? And so, do you think that, and I wanted to ask you, do you think that Nazis, Nazis, they're just unleashing on Jews in such a very bad way, right? And what I wanted to ask you about this was this: do you think that these Nazis, do you think that they have a heart? Of course, they should have the heart that's beating, making you alive. But really, do you think that they have a heart? Well, some of them don't. Some of them do, heroes, but mostly, I don't think they do, right? But it's your opinion. And finally, after that, there's nothing about more Joseph, right? But we do meet Ruthie in Mahmoud's story. But anyway, we're going to go there, and so we are going to talk about that. But before we do, I just wanted to ask you this: who did you predict that Joseph's mother was going to choose, or do you think that she would not even choose at all? What did you predict? And then we're gonna find out, right? But I just wanted to ask you who you predicted. Now, to Isabel. So Isabel, they rode, right? And so they were now dragging the boat. And so were you really terrified at this, or were you excited at this, or did you just, faint because you were so excited and terrified at the same time, right? And the other refugees and Lito were cheering. Did you sort of feel that this, how did you feel about this? Because even if those refugees did not get there, they were cheering for them, right? For Isabel. What do you think that this sort of symbolizes? This symbolizes friendship, sort of, because even if those Jews, there's not just Jews, those refugees, they never had met Isabel's family, but they just were rooting these people who Cuban refugees on. They knew that they were Cuban refugees too, so they wanted these other Cuban refugees to survive, right? Anyway, his brother was in. Anyway, Isabel's mother gets the baby, right? So her brother is born at the worst possible moment, right? They're right now fleeing Cuba. And actually, Isabel's brother was born on sea. Technically, right? He was born in the United States, but technically he was born in sea, on a boat, on a raft. No offense to the people, to Ivan and Senor Castillo, but really it was just a raft, right? Anyway, they were on the sand, right? Awesome, right? And this is just amazing, right? And I just wanted to ask you about, people were just helping to help the family, right? And she was like, yeah. And so this was just so, it was just an amazing part of this book, right? After this, there's one more a little more chapter about Isabel. And then she lives happily ever after. Because even if there's some parts that are scary, Isabel has a happy ending. Thanks for her. I'm very, very thankful for that. Anyway, so we are now going to Mahmoud. They're just the Hungarian refugees are marching down the street did you actually think that this was going to be stopped or not, right? And were you just really, really surprised about this? Or do you think that did you think that this in the first place was foolish, even if it didn't work? Do you think that this was a foolish thing to do or a brave thing to do? And also, anyway, they got to the border of Austria. I was like cheering, I was like, whoo-hoo, right? And they prayed. And after that, there were these cars, right? And they were helping them, right? I mean, how did you feel about this? I mean, like, yeah, how did you feel? I felt emotional. And how do you think that Mahmoud felt? And I'm pretty sure you know that he felt amazing, right? And I think that he felt as happy as if he had pots of gold. And anyway, also, what do you think? So they're so happy, right? Did you actually think that did you actually think that Mahmoud would all this journey, do you think that it was worth it? Or do you think that everything that Mahmoud's been through is just too much and that nobody should face that, even if that meant a new home? This is a really important argument. I mean, it's a very serious one, okay? Anyway, Isabel is at home. She's doing amazing, right? And Mahmoud's home and Isabel's home. Anyway, Isabel, she did music, right? But she did the Star Spangled Banner, but in sort of like it's the Star Spangled Banner, but she probably like a song cubano or an offbeat like guajillo melody. Sorry, a salsa. I'm not very sure. I'm not very good at Cuban music, so search that up another time. But anyway, she mixes both the Star Spangled Banner and Cuba. Why do you think that she did this? Do you think honor of Cuba or something else? And now she actually knows the clave. What do you think the clave is? Do you think that the clave is something real or not? And have you ever felt the clave? I've been a musician, but I've never felt the clave. I might have, but I just don't know it. And I just wanted to ask you about something else. And what I wanted to ask you about that, it was this. Isabel played this for Ivan and for Lito and for Mariano, just everybody, right? It just honored them, right? Do you like, how do you honor your people in your family? How do you honor them? Yeah. I honor them with music and just kindness and love. Okay, we finished Isabel's story. Now, time to finish Mahmoud's and see what happened to Joseph. Well, Mahmoud was really happy, and they were going to a host family, right? And there was a really old man and a really old woman, and Rosenberg's wife was actually Ruthie, and we found out that Joseph chose her, Ruthie, and he says, "Take me to the concentration camp." Oh, I just got so heartbroken for Joseph. He worked so hard. Okay, so I literally did cry a little. I had to rush for the Kleenex. I just had to get a lot of Kleenex so I could just cry a little. But anyway, yeah, pretty sad. And so we are almost finished with the book. So I just wanted to ask you a few last questions. Number one, how do you think that Mahmoud felt about being with a host family, okay? And then we're going to talk about Joseph. If you had been Joseph, would you honestly have, said, would you have honestly said, "Take me"? You have to be really honest with yourself. It's okay if you don't. Well, it's better, but it's okay, if you feel like you wouldn't really say that. And also, I wanted to ask you, if you had been Ruthie, how would you have felt about all this? Do you think that you would have felt guilty or happy or sad? If you had been, Ruthie, how would you have felt for the rest of your life? And Joseph and Joseph's mother, they both died in concentration camps. So they didn't even survive, which was the baddest part. Okay, so guys, I'm getting a little more emotional, so if you want to check that more out, then you can do on other websites and places like that, but getting a little too emotional. But this book, I just wanted to say this book is just an amazing book. Refugee, Refugee is just an amazing book, and just hope that you keep on reading this book, because reading all, again and again. It's just an amazing book. Like I said before, it really shows a lot. And it's really emotional. It's really realistic in a good way. And I just think, actually I said this before, that it's an amazing book. So guys, hope that you had a great time with this book. I just wanted to ask you one last question. A few last questions. Number one, what was your favorite part in these chapters that we just talked about? And then the whole story, and do 3 favorite parts, 1 for each character. And then after that, just do an overall favorite part from the whole book, okay? It doesn't have to depend on what character it is. Also, I wanted to ask you who your least favorite character was and your favorite character was. If you can't really think of that, then just do 2 for each of the stories, okay? Do a favorite character and least favorite character for each of the stories. What do you predict is going to happen next for all of the kids? Of course, Joseph dies, right? But what do you think happened in the middle? How do you think that the concentration camp was for Joseph? What do you think will happen to Isabel? Do you think that when she grows up, what do you think that she'll be? Same for Mahmoud. And do you think that he'll be able to settle in good and be happy Okay guys, we finished the book, but before we completely finish and say bye, which is always so sad, I wanted to ask you, how did you like the book? Always really interesting to see how did you like the book. Sometimes it can change on how do you like the book. Sometimes you might like the book, sometimes you might not like the book. It always changes. My opinion of a book changed one time. Like at first I hated it, and then I loved it. It became one of my all-time favorite books. Okay, but anyway, I just hope that you had a great time with me again. And keep reading. That's my motto. Keep reading. Reading is amazing, guys. Have a great, amazing rest of your day. Or if it's a night, have a great night. Okay, guys?